Hello and welcome to a thrilling new episode of Let's Translate Manga. It has been a half a year since I've recorded one of these, so I'm sorry if I'm a little bit rusty. And during that half year, this channel has mysteriously gained 1,000 subscribers, which is pretty wild to me. Anyway, in this series, if you're new here, and a refresher even if you're not new here, some of my patrons at the $5 level, you can join these patrons by the way, some of my patrons are assigned every other month an unlicensed manga series to translate just a small sample from, and then I go over these translations, I compare and contrast them, and I evaluate them. Who am I to do this? I am a professional manga translator. I have translated The Princess of Convenient Plot Devices, Miss Savage Fang, another series which I don't think I'm allowed to announce at the moment, although by the time this video comes out, maybe I can announce it. But yeah, I am not the supreme authority on manga translation. I am a person with opinions, and my opinions should not be taken as absolute gospel, but the objective of this series is for all of us to just learn something. All of my patrons learn a lot doing this. I learn a lot evaluating the different translations. It's really illuminating to see how other people translate the same passage. All right, so this manga we're looking at is Marginal. It is a post-apocalyptic series. We're skipping like the first few pages that are just kind of setting up the premise, so I'll just tell you right now what this premise is. So post-apocalyptic hellscape place where there are no women. There's like this one woman, the Holy Mother, and only she can bear children. That's just the main issue here, is like, how are they going to produce children, basically. The characters are going to be doing a lot of like lore exposition in this particular video, so yeah. Anyway, let's just go for it. So we're starting on page 12, again, not the very beginning. We have a person looking out over a city. And you look at the architecture and like the themes and the clothes, this has like Greco-Roman vibes. It seems kind of ancient and old. So going with that vibe, thinking about that, considering that in the translation, a man says, "どうだ?" And then the guy who looks like David Bowie answers, "いつ見ても奇妙な形だ、あのセンターは." Then he goes on in the next panel and says, 聖堂の真ん中にすっぽり収まってて、中は全く見えない。市街で一番高い、oh my goodness, that's tower. How do I pronounce it here? 塔からでもダメか。まあ、聖地だからな。Okay, so let's start with patron A. Habat is how this character is romanized. How is it? Greenja answers, there's always that strange shape in the center whenever I look at it. It's right in the middle of the temple. I can't see in the inside at all. And then Habat says, not even from the tallest tower in the city. I guess it is holy ground. Patron B says, so Habato instead of Habat, different romanization. How is it? Greenja answers, the center. It's always an unsettling sight. Greenja, nestled right in the middle of the cathedral. I can't see inside it at all. Habato, not even from atop the tallest tower in town, eh? Well, it is sacred ground after all. Okay, and then patron C, I'm already starting to see some differences. Habato, a similar romanization as patron B, the same romanization really. What do you think? So that's already a difference. Patrons A and B were how is it versus what do you think? I think what do you think is better in this context personally. How is it implies like, I don't know, they're like there could be something wrong with it, and he goes there to check on it every night, and then he's reporting like no change, sir, or whatever. But yeah, I think the vibe here is more like, what do you think, or what's your read on this situation? I can't help but feel a strange sense of unease looking at that center, the David Bowie character replies. And then patron C has a little note here. Unsure if the font would allow for center to be capitalized here. All right, so yeah, this is a fair point. So in the Japanese, it's senta in katakana, right? So that might warrant it being capitalized. But anyway, it's a fair point because if you read English language manga or just comics, English language comic books, often the font is in all caps. Now, sometimes you still can differentiate between like a capitalized letter from a capitalized word, like a person's name or the beginning of a sentence, versus the capitalized letters within a sentence. Sometimes they are like slightly bigger or they look slightly different, so you can still capitalize things sometimes. But yeah, sometimes you can't. So it's always a gamble when you're translating manga. Like if you want to capitalize something for emphasis or to bring focus to that thing, it might get lost because the font is in all caps. So that's a fair point. The David Bowie character goes on to say, it covers the heat of the heart of the shrine entirely. It's impossible to see what's inside. And then Habato says, not even from the tallest tower in the city, but many shrines hold secrets. So we've got cathedral from patron B, we've got shrine from patron C, and we have temple from patron A. So what was it in Japanese? Seido, right? Yeah, Seido. It could be really any of those things. Yeah, like if you look it up, just cursory look in Google Translate, just as a dictionary, we've got cathedral, church, sanctuary, temple, holy shrine, hallowed shrine. Like if you look literally at the kanji, it is like sacred, like tower, shrine, thingy-mabobber. So yeah, any of these translations are correct. It really just depends on aesthetics, what vibe you're going for. Again, because I feel like this is sort of like a Greco-Roman vibe. Personally, I think I like temple the best. And I think it's really just a personal preference, but also I like it. I like cathedral too, but it's long. And just whenever you translate manga, it's always better, like if it's between two words and they're both about equally good in your mind, it's always better to go with the shorter word, especially if it's going to be for a proper thing that's going to continuously come up in the story, like this temple, just because it's easier to fit into speech balloons and your letterer will be happy. But yeah, absolutely go with the best translation. I just feel like, you know, all those translations are pretty good for Seido, so I would just go with whatever was shorter. Yeah, so itsumitemo kimyou na katachi da ano center wa means like man, that center, that place, always looks unsettling, creepy, no matter how many times I look at it. That's what that's itsumitemo is. It's no matter how many times I look at it. Of course, no matter how many times I look at it is quite long. Patron A, there's always that strange shape in the center whenever I look at it. So this is a little bit confusing. This does present us with a dilemma. Patron A interpreted senta, that katakana word, as like the center of the temple, the center of the cathedral, whereas patrons B and C interpreted it more as like the center, that place, basically. Like I would call the shopping center, right? That kind of center. And since it's in katakana, I would assume personally that it is the latter, that it's like shopping center kind of center rather than like the nucleus of a place. So I don't think Patron A's interpretation is correct here. In a later panel, though, in the very next panel, he's talking about Seido no Mannaka. That is the center, like the nucleus of this temple. Look what Patron C did. I can't help but feel a strange sense of unease looking at that center. It covers the heart of the shrine entirely. It's impossible to see what's inside. I think this bridges the gap and just makes it all make sense. Center in this case could mean like the temple itself is called a center, but it could also mean like the central part of it covers the heart of the shrine entirely. It's impossible to see what's inside. So I do like that interpretation. So look what patrons B and C did, and A actually. Patrons B and A, they split up these two speech balloons. Notice how there's like a top of the speech balloon saying itsumitemo, and then there's a second part of the speech balloon, kimyou na katachi da ano senta wa. This is a very Japanese word order sentence sort of thing. It's like Yoda speak. It's like no matter how many times I look at it, strange, creepy shape it has, that center. So you have to make choices when you're translating manga if you're going to translate these two speech balloons kind of as separate thoughts on their own versus connecting them. Patrons A and B did them as separate thoughts. There's always that separate thought, strange shape in the center. You know what? That's not true. Patron A and C kept it together. Patron B did it in two separate thoughts. So patrons A and C, patron A, there's always that strange shape in the center whenever I look at it. That's like one complete thought. Patron C, I can't help but feel a strange sense of unease looking at that center. Versus patron B, the center, that's kind of its own thought. It's always an unsettling sight. Like personally for me, I prefer this approach. I always feel as a reader of English language manga that it's very jarring if like you have a complete sentence that's just awkwardly broken into two different speech balloons. And in Japanese, they rarely will awkwardly split a sentence into two separate speech balloons. If they have the two separate speech balloons, it's intended to have a little break in the sentence. So I like Patron B's approach here. It's not necessarily the best, and it's not necessarily like the only correct one. And I think Patron C did a really good job at breaking them in a logical place. I can't help but pause, feel a strange sense of unease looking at that center. Ideally, it would be, I can't help but feel a strange sense of unease break looking at that center. But if you look at those two balloons, that first balloon is much shorter than the second. So that's why they did it that way. Patron A is a little awkward. There's always that break, strange shape in the center whenever I look at it. Not quite as successful. I spent way too much time on that balloon. Let's move on. So it's right in the middle of the temple. I can't see it in the inside at all. From Patron A. Nestled right in the middle of the cathedral. I can't see inside it at all. Patron C. It covers the heart of the shrine entirely. It's impossible to see what's inside. I like Patron C's approach here. It sounds more natural to me. Patron B's, it almost sounds like narration. Nestled right in the middle of the cathedral. I can't see inside it at all. The second part sounds more like a person, but the first part sounds a little more like, I don't know, it sounds too cool. It sounds too much like narration than a person talking. Patron A's, it's right in the middle of the temple. I can't see in the inside at all. That's fine too. That's also quite natural. Then the guy who doesn't look like David Bowie, not even from the tallest tower in the city. I guess it is holy ground. Yeah, and he's kind of asking a question in Japanese. Shiga de ichiban takai to kara demo dame ka? It's not necessarily asking a question with a question mark, like, oh, not even from the tallest tower in the city. It's more like, which patron did A? Yeah, patron B. Not even from atop the tallest tower in town, eh? It is kind of more like that, although he's not Canadian. But it's more casual. Well, it is sacred ground after all. And then patron C, not even from the tallest tower in the city, but many shrines hold secrets. Well, that's interesting. That is a very liberal interpretation. But it's not wrong. It is a bit of an extrapolation. The guy's saying, hey, this is creepy because you can't see inside it at all. And the other guy's, well, yeah, but that kind of makes sense because it's a holy place and holy places often keep secrets. I don't think it's a necessary extrapolation, but I don't think it's really wrong necessarily. I think it's fair to do that. All right, next page, because I took way too long on that page. You can tell it has been half a year since I have done one of these. Please subscribe to my Patreon. Okay, so we have sound effects of people going, wah! And then somebody saying, kenka wa yamero. Seido no hoangin da. Junban ga herasareru zo. Kono mama ome ome to mura ni wa kaerenu. 盗んででも子供を連れて帰る。今にこのシティも壊滅の浮き目に遭うぞ。All right, so this is a bunch of people yelling and fighting, and they're old people, which is why they have weird speech patterns that are very awkward for me to vocalize. So, patron A, the people going wah, translated as rah. Patron B translated it as whoa. I'd say it's more like raw. It's people being rowdy and fighting. They wouldn't be saying, whoa! Oi from patron C. Yeah, I don't really think that's the vibe either. It really is more like, ah! Like I think patron A got it pretty good with raw. Because it's people fighting. If this were South Park, it would be people literally going, rabble, rabble, rabble! Rabble, 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 rabble! Old reference. Okay. Patron A. Kenka wa yamero. Stop fighting. Patron B. Hey, break it up. Patron C. Break it up! Yeah, so patron A took a more literal approach. Kenka wa yamero literally means stop fighting. Break it up also means that, though. It's just a different way of phrasing it. All of that's fine. Seido no hoangin da junban ga herasareru zo. So patron A, it's temple security. We'll lose our turn. Patron B, those are cathedral security officers. We'll be moved back in the queue. And patron C, that's shrine security. They'll send you to the end of the line. All right, here's a great example. All of these translations are basically saying exactly the same thing, and they're all correct. And note how, once again, this is kind of like a two-bubble sort of situation. I mean, it is one big balloon, but it's broken up a little bit because it's two separate thoughts. I really like how patron A did this. Note how little space this takes up. It's temple security. We'll lose our turn. Like, you're missing a tiny, tiny bit. It's more like we'll lose our place in line. But we'll lose our turn is nice and short, nice and tight. You would definitely have room to say we'll lose our place in line. But I love how tight this is. It's temple security. We'll lose our turn. versus patron B, those are cathedral security officers, will be moved back in the queue. And that's the other thing. Those are cathedral security officers. That's very exposition-y. It's more like, hey, reader, those are cathedral security. Like, if the other person were maybe like a newbie or super out of town and didn't know, then it would make sense for the guy to be like, hey, my dude, my newbie, those are cathedral security officers. We'll be moved back in the queue. So compare the tight patron A, it's temple security, we'll lose our turn, to patron B, those are cathedral security officers, will be moved back to the queue. You don't really need the officers, just it's temple security. It's cathedral security. Will be moved back in the queue. That's fine too. Like, there's technically enough room in these speech balloons for those are cathedral security officers, but I do like the tightness of it's temple security, or that's temple security would be fine. Patron C, that's shrine security. Yeah, I like that tightness. They'll send you to the end of the line. So patron A interpreted it as we'll lose our turn, and patron B also took the we approach, whereas patron C is they'll send you to the end of the line. This is a very fair discrepancy to have. Like, you can't really always tell who is being talked about when there are no pronouns. Pronouns are great. Japanese, you should use them more often. But yeah, I am inclined to think it's more like we'll lose our turn, because I'm pretty sure that guy who's warning everybody else not to fight, like, the security will probably think that guy is one of the rabble-rousers since he's with them. So I think we is a pretty fair interpretation here. Next line, kono mama ome ometo, that one. Patron A, I'm not going to return to our village in shame. A child's coming back home with me, even if I must steal one. Patron B, we can't just return to the village empty-handed. I like that. I don't care if we have to steal it. We're taking a baby with us. I like that. Patron C, we can't waltz back to the village empty-handed. This really captures the ome ometo vibe of the sentence, even if that means stealing a child. I think I kind of prefer patron B's, I don't care if we have to steal it, we're taking a baby with us. But I do like the tightness of patron C's, even if that means stealing a child. It goes with that first half of the sentence. Patron A is, I'm not going to return to our village in shame for ome ometo. So you got waltzing back home versus returning in shame. Those are two different interpretations. So let me look up ome ometo just to be sure I'm not crazy. Okay, I see where the, I see where patron A got shame for. So it's more like shamelessly or brazenly, like waltzing back into town. Like la-dee-da-dee-da, I didn't get a baby, ha-ha, derpy-doo. It's kind of like that. It's not in shame. In shame would be like, you would be embarrassed, but this is more like, I'm not just gonna waltz back into town without a baby. Like, I was supposed to get a baby. I'm gonna get one, even if I have to steal it. So good job, patron C, with waltzing. All right, the last thing that this person is saying, it's a warning. Ima ni kono city mo. So notice how this toshi, this kanji compound that ought to be pronounced toshi, it has the katakana shiti over it for basically city. That's how they're translating it. And I think, again, just to bring a foreign flair to this, because this does not take place in Japan. So anyway, this person is giving them a warning. The city will soon face devastation. Patron B, soon enough, this city will face the same annihilation we have. Now, you may be wondering, where did this we have come from? Particle mo, kono shiti mo, kaimetsu no umeki, umeki is a moaning, ukime ni aozo. So this mo implies that, well, this city as well as some other cities before it. So that's where this city will face the same annihilation we have. Patron A left that out, that nuance. This city will soon face devastation. I think you really do need that. This city will also, it will face the same annihilation as other cities. Patron C, before long the city too shall fall, with a note. Unsure if the font would allow for city. Yeah, same note there. And yeah, again, I think wanting to capitalize city because it's katakana-ized, it's supposed to be like the special word, I suppose, that we want to highlight. I don't think it needs to be capitalized personally. I really like the wording from Patron C here. it keeps the nuance of this city will fall in addition to others that have already fallen, but it keeps it tight. Before long, the city too shall fall. I would do this city too shall fall, but minor detail. But yeah, I really like the wording there. Nice and tight. And it also kind of sounds more like a bold, like prophecy. Mark my words, this city too shall fall. Like, has a good vibe. All right, so the next panel. Yasuyado ni kaeru ka gurinja. Chizu mo daitai dekiagatta shina. All right, that's very straightforward. Patron A. We should return to the inn, Grinja. Our map should be mostly done. Patron B. Shall we head back to the inn, Grinja? The map is just about finished. Patron C. Back to the motel, shall we, Grinja? The map is largely complete. Largely complete is odd to me. I figure like mostly complete is more the correct adverb here. Motel also to me is odd. Now I understand why motel was chosen. Yasuyado, it literally means cheap inn. And like, yeah, in modern times, yeah, a motel, that's a cheap inn. But yeah, in this context, in this world, a motel feels weird to me. When I hear motel, I think seedy motel in Las Vegas or like Motel 6 or something. Could just be me, especially being an American. Other people might not have that association. But yeah, I think inn, like you're losing the fact that it's a cheap inn, but I don't know that it's that important that it's a cheap inn. But yeah, note how patrons B and C formed it as a question. Back to the motel, shall we, Grinja? Shall we head back to the inn, Grinja? Versus patron A, we should return to the inn, Grinja. It's kind of more like a suggestion / question. We should return to the inn, Grinja. To me, it kind of gives, take my advice, Grinja, like, this looking bad. We should head back to the inn. It kind of has that vibe to me, when really he's more like, we might as well go back to the inn, Grinja. It kind of has more that vibe to it. Or, hey, you want to go back to the inn, Grinja? Our map should be mostly done. I think that's pretty good from patron A. The map is just about finished from patron B, pretty good. The map is largely complete from patron C. Again, largely I'm not entirely sure about that word, but you know, they're all correct and they're all about the same. So next page. Okay, so now we have a little bit of world building and exposition for us, the readers. So we can learn a little more about this temple, this cathedral, this shrine, whatever you want to call it. So they were there scouting it out to map it out, basically. And now they're going over their map that they've made. So, Seido wa city Monodoru. So this is the name of the city, Monodoru. We'll see how the patrons romanize that. No chuo ni aru. 特別の教会だ。12の門と回廊と中には祈りの場があり、門の周辺は巡礼者用の安宿がひしめき合ってる。Patron A, the temple is in the heart of this city, Monodor. Monodor, okay, Monodoru, Monodor. I like Monodor. It is well protected. There are 12 gates, corridors, courtyards, and churches leading to it. What's around the gates are cheap inns for pilgrims. Okay, patron B. The cathedral lies at the center of city Monodol. Okay, Monodol. Yeah, Monodol makes sense too. I personally prefer Monodor. It acts as a special boundary. There are 12 gates, cloisters, and courtyards, as well as a space to worship. The areas around the gates are crowded with cheap inns for pilgrims. Patron C, the center of Monodor, known as the city, holds the shrine. It's set off by a wall. There are 12 gates, cloisters, a courtyard, and a prayer area. Many motels crowd the areas outside the gates. All right, so we have a couple inconsistencies here. So let's look at this tokubetsu no kyokai. Da. So kyokai. Let's make sure I'm not crazy. Yeah, boundary, border. So patron A translated kyokai as simply it is well protected. Tokubetsu no kyokai da. It literally means it is a special boundary. It is a special border. But that can be kind of interpreted in a number of different ways. It is well protected is a way of interpreting that. Patron B, it acts as a special boundary is more a literal interpretation of what the Japanese was. But I like the it acts as a special boundary versus it is a special boundary. It is a special boundary sounds kind of odd to me. It's like how, what, but it acts as a special boundary makes it make more sense. Patron B's, though, it's set off by a wall? I don't understand where that came from. I mean, I suppose the kyokai, the boundary, is a wall, and you're missing the tokubetsu, the special. I mean, I suppose it could have been it's set off by a special wall, but then special wall would make it too many words. But yeah, I'm a little confused by this choice here. It's not 100% wrong, but I'm just confused by the choice. The center of Monador, known as the city. I really like this patron C's, the center of Monador, known as the city, holds the shrine. It might be better to do the city in quotes. People would call it the city. They wouldn't necessarily call it city. But yeah, I like that the city is in quotes here because in the Japanese version, it is in katakana, which does distinguish it. It is called city instead of toshi in Japanese. So it's making it a little more distinguished that way. The cathedral lies at the center of city Monadol. We would say Monadol city in English. City Monadol is a little awkward from patron B. The temple is in the heart of this city Monador. I think this city Monador is also a little odd. If I'm like meeting with my buddies, I live in Portland now, by the way, we just moved. But if I'm like meeting with my buddies and we're staking out a place and we drew a map so that we can like, you know, case the place or whatever, and we're going over our plans, we're going over our map, I don't think I would be like, the coffee shop is in the heart of this city, Portland. It sounds very exposition-y to say it that way. I might say it's in the heart of the city of Portland. I wouldn't necessarily be like in the heart of this city, Portland. I don't know, it just sounds a little odd to me. I do like it as well protected, but I think it acts as a special boundary is the best. Stuff like this, incidentally, at least for me, this is like some of the hardest stuff for me to translate because it's like, it's not very character-y, it's not very like character dialogue-y, it's more like purely exposition, purely more like narration. But you still have characters saying it, so it still has to kind of sound like natural people talking. So I do think this is pretty difficult. All right, next bubble, balloon, patron A. There's 12 gates, corridor. This part's easier because it's lists. There's 12 gates, corridors, courtyards, and churches leading to it. Inori no ba to church is odd. It's a very odd choice, especially since we're talking about a temple, which is also basically a church. I think the other patrons did Inori no ba as space of worship from patron B, and prayer area. I really like prayer area from patron C. That's literally what it is. Inori no ba, a place to pray. And it's tighter and takes up less space. But let's go on. Patron B, there are 12 gates, cloisters instead of corridors. Kaido really is corridor. I don't know where cloister came from, but I really like cloister. I went to the cloisters in New York. They're really cool. Patron C also did 12 gates and cloisters. A courtyard versus courtyards. Yeah, it's really unclear if there's a courtyard or courtyards. I would assume there's just a courtyard. Nakaniwa, like, implies the central garden, the central courtyard, the courtyard. I think it's just one courtyard, not courtyards, but who knows. As well as a space to worship and a prayer area. I really like that for Inori no ba from patrons A, B, and C. The second half of that, what's around the gates are cheap inns for pilgrims. What's around the gates is a weird way of phrasing that. Just delete what's. Around the gates are cheap inns for pilgrims, and that reads a lot better. Patron B, the areas around the gates are crowded with cheap inns for pilgrims. That is literally what it is in Jap, like hishimeki atteru. I do like adding the cheap inns in there from patrons A and B. Crowded with cheap inns for pilgrims. That is like correct. It's a little wordy, but I think there's enough room in that balloon for that. Patron C did many motels crowd the areas outside the gates. I really like this wording here. Crowd the areas outside of the gates. And if you look at the word order of everything in Japanese it starts with gate around the area of, for pilgrims, cheap inns are crowded. But aside from the motel part, crowd the areas outside the gates. It's basically backwards from what it was in Japanese, and that's often how you have to translate that. But I really like how tight that is. Again, I personally don't like the motel choice, even though it's correct. I just don't like the sound of that word in there with this setting, but I really like how tight this is. Look how short that is. Many motels crowd the areas outside the gates. And again, patron A's is fine too if you just get rid of what's. Around the gates are cheap inns for pilgrims. That's also nice and tight. And that was my cat meowing. I don't know if you heard that. Not yet, honey. An hour until your dinner time. All right, next panel. 自由に出入りできるのは制度のここまで. I'm sorry, I'm reading that awkwardly. My cat is trying to jump up onto the table where I have the camera where I'm recording this. That would be disastrous. 聖堂の真ん中はセンターと呼ばれるガラスのドームのあるところだ。これがホーリーマザーのお住まいというわけだ。And then there's a bunch of labels. You got the city protection, the center, the balcon, a lot of other little things labeled here. So patron A, you can freely access the temple up to here. The middle of it is the glass dome they call the center. And then text, street, balcony, center, city hall. The Holy Mother is said to reside there. Patron B, laymen can't enter past this point. I like this workaround. We'll go over why I like it later. The very middle of the cathedral is called the center. That's this part with the glass dome. So yeah, it's clarified from the panel before. So this is a moment where if you're translating this and you go, oh, aha, senta, that is the official name of it. It is called the center. So going back to that first panel when they're talking about the center, it should be the center and it should probably be capitalized. They're not talking about the nucleus of it. It's called the center. That's this part with the glass dome. Map labels, city, center, balcony, mayor government offices. Yeah, the mayor government offices is very, very long and would not fit in that little balloon. I like patron A's workaround with just calling it City Hall because that is where you would find government offices and the mayor's office and stuff. So even though mayor government offices is correct, it's too long for that little teeny tiny balloon. The Holy Mother resides there. Patron C, the public are free to venture as far in as the center in the very middle. And we're leaving out a few details that it's a glass dome and it's called the center. Patron C has a note here, unsure if the font would allow for center to be capitalized here. Same note as before. Yeah, I like how tight this is, but I don't think it has to be that tight. We're sacrificing some of the details that there's the glass dome and it's called the center. It's not like the center in the very middle. It's like, no, it's called the center. Toyobareru. Image text, center, town. Okay, and then balcony, town officials' residence. Yeah, man. I mean, that's correct. Town officials' residence. Yeah, there's taku. I missed that last time. Jeez, yeah, that's just a nightmare to letter. Anyway, moving on to Habato's other line. That's where the Holy Mother lives, cordoned off. Okay, that was not in the original Japanese, but it is there. It's implied. And I like that. So let's go back to why I like this patron B's workaround with laymen can't enter past this point. Patron A did you can freely access the temple up to here. Patron C did the public are free to venture as far as in the center in the very middle. In Japanese, it really is more like the only part that a person that one could, again, no pronouns, no you or we or anything, but just the only a person, a theoretical person, can only go this far. They can only go this far. Versus patron B said, laymen can't enter past this point. I just really like the wording there. I don't know, it gives it a little more mystery. It's like, because that's what they want to know a little more about, is that part beyond where laymen, where normal people can enter. So I really like that wording there, and it's nice and tight and short. And I like how it's two separate thoughts because it is technically two balloons. I also like the very middle of the cathedral is called the center. That's this part with the glass dome. It's a little long. Again, these balloons are pretty big though. I think you could fit all that in there just fine. Patron A's is a little tighter. The middle of it is the glass dome they call the center. And that gets everything in there too. これがホーリーマザーのお住まいというわけだ. This というわけだ is like, and that would be where the Holy Mother lives, obviously, because it's the glass dome and it's where laymen can't enter. That's the vibe that we're going for there. Patron A did, the Holy Mother is said to reside there. It's not really that she's said. It's like And of course, like, in case you couldn't guess, this is where the Holy Mother is. It's more that vibe. It's not she's said to reside there. Patron B, the Holy Mother resides there. That's just fine. And then patron C, that's where the Holy Mother lives. Cordoned. That's kind of why I like the cordoned off. It adds a little more flavor to this. And again, the vibe is like, so of course this is where the Holy Mother is because free, people can't go in there. The next panel, we've got a person with cool eyeliner and robe saying, "Chikatsuro mo mero no you ni aru ga, mihari mo ite, yahari ikeru no wa koko made da." So it's kind of like, oh man, there are like labyrinth-like underground passages there, but there's a lot of guards as you would expect. So yeah, dang it, I guess this is as far as we can go. It's kind of that vibe. Patron A, there's an underground passage, but it's like maze. That implies it's like corn, but it's like a maze. It's well guarded too. It's as far as one can go. Patron B, there's a maze of tunnels underneath, but they're all guarded. This is as far as we can go. That one's a little bit cleaner. And patron C, a maze of passageways wind underground, but those are guarded, so this is as close as we can get. So this is as close as we can get. I really do like that. Yahari ikeru no wa koko made da. Okay, let's go on to the next page. The guy says, "Horimaza wa asu no shoujo seido ni o sugata o miseru." Old dude says, "Grinja kore o yaru." The David Bowie guy, Grinja, says, "Anta no ude wa da." Then the old guy says, "Washi wa mou iran. Habato to konya wa iroko demo katte koi." All right, so iroko, that's interesting. Little piece of lore. We're going to see how the other patrons translated this. So patron A, and tomorrow at noon, the Holy Mother shall make her appearance. Shoujo, let me just look up shoujo. Sanity check. Shoujo. Noon, yes, okay. We are not crazy. And tomorrow at noon, the Holy Mother shall make her appearance. Yep. Patron B, tomorrow afternoon, the Holy Mother will make a public appearance at the cathedral. This is more what it is saying in Japanese. It's a bit longer, but I think this balloon is big enough for all of that. Osunata o miseru, it's a very polite, reverent way of saying she will make an appearance or she will show herself. Public appearance, that really is the vibe. She will make a public appearance at the cathedral. It's a big deal. Make an appearance at the cathedral more implies, she's going to swing by the cathedral and say hi. But no, public appearance means, yes, she's going to, like, I almost said reveal herself. That's not what it means. But yeah, she's going to make a public appearance. I think that's important to add that in there. Patron C, the Holy Mother will show her face at the shrine tomorrow. That's a little vague. Like, it could mean that she's like, wow, she usually doesn't show her face. She's usually so shrouded in mystery, so will make a public appearance. But it could also just mean she'll show her face. She'll say, hi, hey guys, long time no see. So I do like Patron B's wording, even though it's a bit lengthy. I think that captures the vibe. The next person, Elder 3 from Patron A. Take this, Grinja. Grinja, take this from Patron B. And Grinja, for you. I think I like Grinja for you from Patron C. Kore o yaru. This means like I am giving this to you. This is for you. Take this is fine. It's not wrong, but I do kind of like for you or this is for you. I think there's enough room in that balloon to say this is for you. And then David Bowie Grinja says, "Anta no ude wa da," like, but this is your bracelet. This is your armband. Patron A says, it's your bangle. Yeah, bangle's a good one for ude wa. Patron B, your bracelet. And then patron C, your bracelet with a question mark. He's not asking though. He really is saying like, it's more like, but this is yours. It's your bangle. I think I like but, like if you just added but it's your bangle. I think it has more the vibe, but yeah, I like the choice from patron A to translate it as bangle. And yeah, I like the vibe of it's your bangle. Okay, now the line with Iroko. So patron A, I have no more need for it. You and Habat can buy a good time with a boy tonight. Patron B, I don't need it anymore. You and Habato go buy a catamite or a catamite for the night. And then there's a long note, which we'll get into in a minute. Patron C, I no longer need it, go. Use it on some nice young thing for habato and yourself. I kind of like I no longer need it and then go, period. Use it on some, yeah, I kind of like that. Some nice young thing. So yeah, iroko. Okay, so boy, just simply a boy is how patron A translated it. Patron B gave it a name, how am I pronouncing this? Catamite. I'm going to look this up because I have never seen this word before. I'm intrigued. Archaic, a boy kept for homosexual practices. Yeah, I think this is a pretty dang good word for it. And then patron C, a nice young thing. And I think that works pretty well too. So iroko, it literally, if you look at the kanji, it just means colorful child. But iro often means sexy as well. And yeah, like ko isn't necessarily like literally a child, but like younger person. So I do like nice young thing, but I also really like the choice patron B had to give it an official word. So let me read this note. The easiest thing here is to use a word like courtesan, prostitute, rent boy, etc., but I don't think it gets across the nuance of iroko, especially written in katakana as it is. I went through a lot of options, including just romanizing iroko or using kagema, but I thought a Greco-Roman term might be similarly appropriate. I agree. Hagio was inspired by similarities between Greco-Roman and Japanese historical pederasty for this world. After all, curious to see what others would do with the word. Yeah, I do like the choice to like use an archaic word like that for this. It's long, but I like it. But I think the workarounds with like buy a good time with a boy and use it on some nice young thing, I think that works well too. Ideally, one would read far ahead in the series to see how this word is used and if it comes up more often and is used more often. If so, picking an official term like patron B did would be the right call. But if it's not used again, you know, a nice young thing or a boy is just fine. Okay, next panel. 明日は忙しい。明日が怖いか？いや。あとは運を信じることだ。All right, so this is a pretty simple exchange, probably the easiest dialogue of the entire episode. We are almost done. I have been doing this for so long. I hope it wasn't boring. Anyway, patron A, tomorrow's a busy day. Are you scared of tomorrow? I'm not. All that's left is to trust in our luck. Patron B, long day ahead of us. Nervous about tomorrow? No, the rest is up to luck. Patron C, the big day is tomorrow. Do you fear what might happen? Nay. We must trust in what fate brings us. Ooh, so I personally really like the vibe of patron C's. Like, again, making the speech a little more, you know, Shakespearean, a little more archaic to fit this setting. I like the big day is tomorrow for ashita wa isogashi. Like, literally ashita wa isogashi means like tomorrow will be busy. Isogashi can mean so many different things, though. It can be interpreted so many different ways. But I really like the big day is tomorrow. I mean, they're planning, you know, they map the place out, they case the place, like, shit's gonna go down tomorrow. The big day is tomorrow. I dig that. Patron B, long day ahead of us. Long day ahead of us tomorrow. I don't know that you really need the tomorrow because this is the middle of the night, so obviously they're talking about the next day. And then patron A, tomorrow's a busy day. That's the more literal interpretation of that. But yeah, I think big day tomorrow, or the big day is tomorrow, long day ahead of us. I'd say the big day is tomorrow is probably the best one here for the vibe. And then the guy with the hood, ashita ga kowai ka? It's like, are you scared? Basically, or are you nervous? Literally, it's like, are you scared of tomorrow? But that's odd. We would be more like, are you scared of what tomorrow might bring? Or are you scared of what might happen tomorrow? Or are you scared? Are you nervous? Patron A, are you scared of tomorrow? Yeah, that is literally what it is. Are you scared of tomorrow? But it's an odd way of wording that in English. Nervous about tomorrow from patron B, that makes more sense. Do you fear what might happen? I really like, again, it has that Shakespearean sort of, I don't know, and it makes everything sound a little more ominous, and it makes the reader go, ooh, what's going to happen tomorrow? So I really like that. And then I'm not for iya from patron A, no from patron B, and then nay, again, more archaic from patron C. I think no is just fine, and I'm not is also just fine. Again, I just personally really am digging the whole Shakespearean vibe that patron C has going on. あとは運を信じることだ. All that's left is to trust in our luck from patron A. The rest is up to luck for patron B. And then patron C, we must trust in what fate brings us. I really like that vibe too. Again, it's like the vibe is あとは, so he's basically implying we did all of our prep work. We've done all the planning that we possibly can. あとは, like all that remains is, all that we can do now is 運を信じる. So 運 does mean luck, but it also can mean like fate. It's like the first character of 運命, fate, the fates, providence. But yeah, I think fate is a really good interpretation for 運 in this case. Fate and luck are kind of the same. They're two sides of the same word. But yeah, we must trust in what fate brings us. I really like the rest is up to luck is correct. It just, we must trust in what fate brings us is a better button for the end of the scene. All that's left is to trust in our luck. Again, perfectly correct. Not as good a button for the end of the scene. And as that was the end of a scene, we're going to stop there. Tune in a couple weeks or so, I believe, for part 2 of Marginal, this manga series. Again, this is an unlicensed series. It is shoujo manga. One of the cool things about doing this Let's Translate series is I do like to, it gives us an opportunity to look at series that people might not know about. And kind of expand our libraries. So anyway, thank you to the patrons who participated in this. If you want to learn more about this series and the people who translated in this episode, check the video description below. And again, if you want to join them and try your hand at translating, we're going to start a new round in a couple, well, by the time this video goes up, we're already starting a new round, but you can sign up on my Patreon at the $5 level or higher to join these patrons. Anyway, see you next time, hopefully, and bye!